Peplink this week has released 8.4 of its firmware, claiming supercharged Starlink support and other new features. Just what is new and what is supercharged Starlink support all about? We got the details. Hi, I'm Chris from the Mobile Internet Resource Center, here to give you an update on Peplink Router Firmware 8.4, the newest major release from Peplink for all of their routers. Now, the big headline new feature in firmware 8.4 is what Peplink is calling supercharged Starlink support. And, well, it's not really as exciting as the headline sounds. There are now some new dedicated Starlink features built into the firmware. You can enable Starlink detection in the firmware, and it will detect when you are connected to a Starlink and display a Starlink branded X next to the connection on your Peplink dashboard, and it will display a little bit of status information, whether you're offline or obstructed. It will understand that the Starlink is obstructed or online. And, well, that's about it as far as your local Peplink dashboard. Not what I would call a lot of exciting supercharged features there, unless you are using Peplink's In Control enterprise dashboard, which is normally intended for managing fleets of Peplink routers and is not typically used by individual RVers or cruisers. But if you are using In Control and have enabled Starlink mode on firmware 8.4, it makes a tunnel between the Starlink and the In Control dashboard that gives you some of the things you would see on the normal Starlink app on your Peplink dashboard, only on In Control. You'll see the percentage of the time it is obstructed. You'll see some of the logging details that the Starlink is accumulating. You'll see whether the Starlink thinks it is roaming or at its home location, and a few other things on that In Control dashboard. And the In Control dashboard will give you a button to remotely reboot your Starlink or remotely stow your Starlink. Put the antenna flat if you're using one of the stock mounted Starlink things. And, if you're managing remote fleets of Starlinks, that could be an interesting feature. But for most normal users, it's actually kind of got a downside. Imagine you're connected via Starlink from your boat or your RV, and that's your only way online. You're on the In Control dashboard, and you hit the stow button to make the Starlink fold up. Well, you're suddenly offline. You can no longer hit the unstow button on the In Control dashboard if that was your only way online. And there is no unstow button on the local dashboard. So Peplink still has some work to do to make this really a useful new set of features for people who are using Starlink primarily only with a single local router. But we have been talking with Peplink about this, testing this for a while, and we're hoping that they'll have better, more real, worthy of supercharged integrations coming built right into the router and the router's dashboard in the hopefully not too distant future. Now, what else is new in firmware 8.4 other than the supercharged Starlink integration? One of the other big headline features is eSIM support. So eSIM are electronic SIMs rather than the physical SIM slots that you have to plug in SIMs into a router. You can have eSIMs that you download. Again, from Peplink's In Control dashboard, you could download eSIMs. You can have 2 eSIMs per modem that already has 2 physical SIM slots. So if you've got a dual modem Peplink router like this one, you'll end up with 2 physical SIM slots per modem and 2 eSIM slots per modem. And then you've basically got 4 potential choices, 4 potential plans you could switch between for a given modem, which gives you a lot more flexibility. And, well, it means that if your carrier supports issuing eSIMs for their data plans, you no longer need to worry about getting a physical SIM mailed to you or stopping in at a carrier store. So talk to your data providers, and this might be an interesting new option. But again, just like the Starlink features, this is a feature that is enabled only through their In Control enterprise dashboard, because this is mostly an enterprise level feature. But you can install those eSIMs via the In Control dashboard and then use them via the local web dashboard, just like normal. You just have more potential SIM slots for each modem. So it does increase your flexibility, gives you a great new way to install plans remotely. And as eSIM becomes more and more important in the future, this will become a more commonly used feature. Only certain Peplink routers do support eSIM, so check the compatibility list in our companion article to make sure that your routers do. But quite a lot of the more recent models do have the eSIM hardware in them and now can be deployed and managed with eSIMs remotely via In Control. So a nice upgrade in 8.4. Again, nothing groundbreaking, but still pretty nice for some. Now, There are a lot of other little features in 8.4, many of them intended for IT managers or enterprise, or a lot of them are just fit, finish, and polish improvements. One of the other more signature things is actually based on a lot of customer feedback, including from us, was the Peplink's quality of service feature that lets you manage how traffic is balanced. So you can say, hey, my work computers have a higher priority on my network than the kids' PlayStations, and that has a higher priority than the streaming TV system in the living room. The quality of service features in the past were limited to 3 different levels of service, and now they have 10 different classifications that you can assign and customize. So some nice improvements there if you want to dive deep and get kind of geeky in optimizing your local network. That's a pretty cool new feature. Now, there are a bunch of other interesting features, some of them that are appealing to our audience. And if you don't know Peplink hardware, this might sound kind of cryptic, but there's synergy mode over VLAN. So this is the signature of the kind of the blockbuster feature of 8.3 firmware earlier this year with synergy mode, which lets you use multiple Peplink routers kind of bonded together to virtually work as one. Synergy mode was an incredibly useful feature for our audience. And now synergy mode over VLAN lets you basically just have a little bit more flexibility in how you set up synergy mode and wire these devices together. You don't have to rely on the limited number of LAN and WAN ports that are built right into the router. So more flexibility in using synergy mode. That's a good improvement. There is another really nice improvement that if you're using an external access point, one of the Peplink's access points to extend your local network, you can now use SSIDs, Wi-Fi networks hosted by an access point over SpeedFusion Connect Protect bonding service a lot easier. You no longer have to go through some manual steps of setting up VLANs to route the traffic through the SpeedFusion bond. Again, it's a little bit complicated, but now it's actually gotten a lot simpler on how to do this. So look into our member areas where we'll have some more updated tutorials, and just basically it's gotten simpler. The special hoops you had to jump through to use access points and SpeedFusion Connect Protect are gone. So nice improvement there. There have been some nice improvements if you're using the Peplink SIM injector to remotely manage a library of SIM cards. Before, it was really not practical to do advanced band control, the manual band selection of your cellular bands. That is one of the pieces of feedback we gave them earlier in the year, and they have now made that possible. So you can do band management no matter how your SIM cards are installed, including with eSIMs. You now have access to be able to specify which specific bands you connect to, which can really help you in remote areas get connected and optimize your cellular connection. So again, easier in 8.4. A few other little, actually kind of enhancements for existing products. If you've got some of the lower end PepWave routers like the BR1 Mini or Max Transit Mini, in the past, those routers did not support bonding. They supported SpeedFusion failover and WAN smoothing, but not true bonding using multiple connections simultaneously. Now with 8.4, those routers, if they have an active PrimeCare subscription, can do bonding. They are still limited by their CPU performance, but they can actually do bonding now. If you have some of the higher end routers like the BR1 Pro 5G or the BR2 Pro, those have always had bonding, but it required an active PrimeCare subscription. For some reason, Peplink is eliminating the requirement to keep your PrimeCare subscription active. You will still get bonding features even if PrimeCare expires if you're hosting your own bonding server. So that actually could save you several $100s a year from needing to pay for PrimeCare if you don't need all those extra features of PrimeCare. So a nice little bonus being given to people, some of the higher end routers don't need to pay for PrimeCare anymore. And then for people who are using SpeedFusion relay mode to relay from a router on the road to a router back at their home base. In the past, that was limited to just 2 or 3 connections inbound, so 2 or 3 devices could relay into your home network. Now that has been increased to 5, so another little improvement. So lots of little improvements in 8.4. It is not a blockbuster firmware release. It is not supercharged really in any fashion, but it is, again, just a lot of nice polish across the board. It is not a huge deal release like 8.3 was earlier this year, but it is great progress, and it is well, wasn't even an entire year's wait before this new 8.4 firmware came out. So kudos to Peplink for keep turning the crank, keep improving things, keep making their firmware better. And we look forward to see where it goes next with 8.5 or the 9.0 that they're working on, which we've been told will have an entirely new user interface. So there's some exciting things in the pipeline down the road, and we'll keep an eye on it. One other thing to remember, though, the 8.4 firmware is the first of kind of a new series. The 8.3 was the end of the line for a lot of older Peplink hardware. So make sure you check your compatibility list. A lot of the older devices that we used to recommend years ago were basically capped at 8.3. We covered this when 8.3 came out. They will not get the upgrade to 8.4, but other Peplink routers, if you have anything even slightly new, you should be able to check for and download the 8.4 firmware upgrade as of this week.
These videos are brought to you by our premium members, our mobile internet aficionados. They make it possible for us to track this news and create these videos. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe to our channel, or better yet, consider becoming a member yourself.